10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Today on Studio One, they may keep our environment safe, but are they keeping you safe? We'll tell you how reusable shopping bags can pose a risk to public health. Also, most of us played kickball at some point in childhood. One group of adults is bending the age limit of the classic playground game. And all that rusty stuff needs to go somewhere. We'll spend a day in the life of the man who moves steel.
From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Hi everyone and welcome to Studio One. I'm Monty Cashel.
And I'm Lindsay Seminary. So when we think about drug addiction, we usually think about illegal drugs like cocaine and heroin. Meth. But what people don't always know is that one of the biggest drug problems our country is having is actually a legal drug.
Right. Legal.
Legal.
Not illegal, legal, right?
A legal drug
right.
actually prescribed to them by their doctor.
Yeah, and you know, you see a lot more of that now on documentaries and things following addiction. You see prescription drugs just as much as the other drugs you mentioned before.
So we're going to have someone come on and tell us a little bit more about why these prescription drugs can be such a problem and maybe what we can do to maybe combat the problem for the future.
Interesting stuff. Yeah. Also, going green may leave you looking green. Find out how canvas grocery bags could make you sick.
Also, we may try to bury the skeletons hiding in our closets, but bones speak louder than we realize. We'll talk to a woman who knows what bones reveal.
But first, here's today's news with Amy Unruh.
Thanks, Monty and Lindsay. What started as one mudslide has turned into multiple mudslides in southern Mexico. The governor of the area says nearly 1,000 people were trapped beneath the wall of mud and debris. As of Thursday, 23 people are reported dead and 9 are still missing. The mudslides were caused by weeks of heavy rain. Washed out roads and damaged bridges are making it difficult for rescuers to reach the disaster area. The mudslide also swept away houses, trees, and cars. Jimmy Carter left an Ohio hospital Thursday after a 2-day stay. The former president was hospitalized after becoming ill on a flight from Atlanta to Cleveland. Doctors say 85-year-old Carter suffered from a viral infection that probably gave him stomach problems. Carter made no statement when he left the hospital. However, he did wave to camera crews as he left the emergency room and then again from his vehicle as he departed. He's expected to resume his regular schedule with a meeting this week in D.C. Many people across America are waking to find their daily caffeine fix a bit more expensive. Coffee bean prices have skyrocketed and are expected to keep rising. Over the last 3 months, prices of coffee have increased 47%. This is the highest price in 13 years. The increase has led many coffee lovers to rethink their habits.
I wouldn't cut out coffee completely because it does help get me through my day, get some stuff done. It gives me a little boost of energy, but I probably wouldn't get the special drinks that I normally would get.
The price hike is due to a bad crop in Colombia and other parts of Central America. Some also say that the Gulf oil blowout has affected shipping costs of beans. Large corporations like Starbucks are absorbing the extra costs so it doesn't affect their customers. However, home brews like Folgers and Maxwell House will raise their prices about 10% this fall. The flu may not be the only sickness you want to prepare for this year. Public health officials say whooping cough could be making a comeback. 9 babies in California have died this year. 600 other infants have fallen ill. The University of New South Wales in Sydney found there are multiple strains of whooping cough. This means there are at least 2 strains of the sickness that cannot be protected by the current vaccination. Another cause of the outbreak could be that infants are not being vaccinated. In California, it's easy for parents to refuse the shots for their kids. This stems from the theory that autism can be caused by vaccines. Paper or plastic is a dying phrase that more and more consumers are opting for reusable bags, but a tiny danger may be lurking in this environmentally friendly trend. Reusable grocery bags are a popular way to go green and are used for a number of reasons.
Some bags break on the way to the car and they're nice to carry lots of stuff in.
However, if not washed properly, these bags can be unsafe.
Unfortunately, on the outside of the some of your produce, they can also have various types of bacteria.
A study done by the University of Arizona shows that if reusable bags are not washed on a regular basis, bacteria can accumulate. Bacteria such as E. coli and Salmonella can cause serious health problems and even lead to death.
When the meat products are wrapped in the store, or they may leak, that doesn't happen very often, but it can happen.
Gluckman recommends that to avoid buildup of bacteria, you should separate your groceries when packing. Also, washing the bag thoroughly with bleach or soap water will eliminate the bacteria.
With the cloth grocery bags, that they need to launder them frequently.
Even with the risk, experts say cloth bags are safe when used properly. They benefit the earth and benefit your wallet.
We do offer a discount for our guests if they do use the reusable bags.
Canvas bags may be safe for the environment, but you'll want to make sure they're safe for you too. It's also recommended that reusable bags should not be used for other purposes like carrying books or gym clothes. And consumers should not store the bags in the trunks of cars because the higher temperature promotes growth of bacteria. And that's the news for now. Monty and Lindsay.
Thanks, Amy. I never thought about the whole in your trunk thing. I guess it can get hot as a greenhouse in there to grow stuff, I'm sure.
Never crossed my mind. And I never really even thought of washing it, even though that should be obvious, but I guess a lot of people don't even realize bacteria that can grow in there. Okay, so everyone knows it's fall, it's harvest time.
It is.
And agriculture, people that are in farming need to keep up with what's going on.
They always stop and listen to the weather report.
Keep tabs on how their harvest is going to go. So Miranda Hilgers at Weather can tell us why it's been a little bit more wet than usual.
You're right, Lindsay. Actually, we've had quite a bit of rainfall in parts of southern Minnesota, places in Wisconsin, and it's actually causing a lot of problems for farmers to get in and get their field harvested with their large equipment. We have a nice map here of the rainfall totals from this storm on September 23rd. We had upwards of 6 inches of rain dropped in a 24-hour period here just south of Mankato, Minnesota, right above I-90 corridor right here in the southern part. And again, this rainfall extends all the way into Wisconsin with up to 3 to 6 inches in the central part here in orange, and down to Sioux Falls. They didn't miss out either, 2 to 3 inches down there. And when you put this into perspective, usually 2 to 3 inches is like a monthly total. So we're looking at a month's worth of rain in one day, especially places like Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport. We had just shy of 3 inches. Same with Chanhassen, where the National Weather Service is stationed. And as you move further south into Minnesota with Claremont and Truman, we're getting a little closer to those 9 and 10 inches. And finally, Amboy, the winner for the day with just under 11 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. Now, to give you a little perspective, that's similar to what you would see from a hurricane, which is really quite impressive. So that water all has to go somewhere, and we're seeing a lot of flooding problems here in southern Minnesota. In fact, New Ulm at the Cottonwood River crested just below 19 feet, and they are seeing moderate to major flooding there. Again, Mankato, the Minnesota River, cresting just shy of 28 feet, again, moderate to major flooding, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota, again, not to be left out, just shy of 22 feet cresting, and serious flooding problems they're having there. And it should be a little bit of a challenge to get that dried out, and especially the crops there, they're going to have trouble getting those harvested. Luckily, the weather should cooperate this next part of the week. We're going to see drier than average conditions in most of the affected areas, again, southern Minnesota into Wisconsin and parts of South Dakota. So hopefully that should help them dry things out, get things moving again with the rivers, and a little bit warmer than average up to the Pacific Northwest. We're going to see cooler than average temperatures this next week in places like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, down into the south towards the Gulf Coast. It's going to be a little bit chilly, but that's expected because it's fall. We have a package later that tells you about weather modification, where scientists attempt to make clouds rain using seeding techniques, and what are the most favorable conditions for that? We have answers there: scattered clouds, clear skies, stormy weather, or overcast. And you might want to think about that they're trying to make it rain, so if there's already clouds, they might not do it. So that's a hint for you, Monty and Lindsay.
I also wouldn't want to be up there in the stormy weather, though, too. I don't know. It's a tough one. Thanks, Miranda.
Yep.
Yeah. So at least she gave us a hint this time. Usually it's
up in the air?
It's up in the air. Just hard to figure out.
Literally.
Yes, it is, literally and figuratively. All right, let's turn to sports, where everything is as it is in highlights, and David Folsky is going to tell us what's happening.
Thanks, Monty and Lindsay. Since clinching the division, the Minnesota Twins are 1-5 as they look to end their 5-game losing skid against the Kansas City Royals. In the bottom of the second, Keila Ka'aihui hits his 8th home run of the season and puts the Royals up 1-0. Top of the 5th now, 2-0 Royals, and Orlando Hudson tries to get something started for the Twins, but Alex Gordon dives and denies him of any hit next inning. Now 2-1 Royals. Lexi Casilla grounds into a fielder's choice, and Danny Valencia would score to tie it at 2, but it would not stay that way for long. At the top of the 7th, Delman Young would hit one down the left field line. It would smoke the foul pole for his 20th home run of the season. That would be all the Twins would need as they go on to win 4-2. Off to the Bay as the Giants look to extend their lead in the NL West, but Stephen Drew doesn't help as he puts the D-backs up 1-0 with his 15th home run of the season. Arizona would lead 1-0. In the top of the 4th, 2 out and 1 on for Stephen Drew, but this time a different result as Lincecum strikes him out. Bottom half of the inning, Pat Burrell launches a 3-run bomb to left field, and it is long gone and gives the Giants the lead at 3-1. Burrell's 20th home run of the season. Top of the 7th, Lincecum will get Chris Young to strike out to end the inning. Lincecum had 11 strikeouts on his way to a win as the Giants cruise to a 3-1 victory. A recent incident with the Minnesota high school football team has put a spotlight on hazing. Many athletes are unaware of the consequences associated with the act. Athletic directors say the reputation of a school can be damaged after just one hazing incident. Many institutions now have strict policies on hazing in place. The consequences can have damaging effects on student athletes as well as athletic programs.
It's like anything else. You know, if your kids get busted for, you know, say minor possession, it's going to get used against you in the recruiting trail, and it's that perception that, you know, all football players are doing that or all athletes are doing that.
They say it can divide players and cause problems with the team's ability to perform well on the field. It is now time for the Studio One Sports Trivia question. Which NHL player was the leading rookie scorer in the 2009-2010 regular season? For talented rookie athletes in the NHL. We'll get that answer later, but that's the sports. Monty and Lindsay.
Thanks, David. She might seem sweet, but she feeds on blood. We're talking about the central character in the newest vampire film. We'll preview the movie later in the show.
Also, history is often found in textbooks, but it can also be buried in the ground. We will learn what our ancestors' bones can tell us.
The University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences is meeting the challenge of future healthcare workforce shortages. The state's only medical school produces the highest percentage of graduates nationwide who choose family medicine. Advanced degrees are also offered in basic medical sciences like anatomy and health professions like physical therapy. Students learn and train throughout the state.
In that way, we really are North Dakota.
Make your choice the UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences.
At the University of North Dakota School of Engineering and Mines, I can experience education that fits my goals.
Become a competitive graduate in a global market and learn in small class sizes where professors are also mentors.
Work in a diverse team and inspire young minds.
Help develop world-class research.
Gain state-of-the-art technical knowledge while building strong business and leadership skills.
And stay connected even after I graduate.
Your future depends on this moment. Take the path that leads to your future.
Studio One is a television show produced by staff and students at the University of North Dakota.
Here you actually get to do your own stories and you get to go out and talk to people and interview and learn about the cameras and everything that goes into like a live television production. I mean, it's incredible.
Give it a try. I mean, even if you're not broadcasting communications major, anything, I mean, it's worth it.
What does cancer look like? What about diabetes, heart disease? Medical laboratory professionals are a vital link in the treatment of disease and maintenance of health. They investigate clues found in the body that will direct patient care. The University of North Dakota's laboratory science programs are some of the most innovative, far-reaching, fully accredited programs in the nation. The UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences can help you become one of the few who see beneath the surface.
You're watching Studio One from the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks.
Whether it is analyzing ancient bones of our ancestors, identifying bones after a disaster, or cracking mysteries for the justice system, our next guest has seen it all. Forensic anthropologist Phoebe Stubblefield is here to tell us what it is like to use bones to solve puzzles. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, you're a forensic anthropologist. How is that different from just an anthropologist?
Oh, well, there are many kinds of anthropologists, just an anthropologist. So there's cultural, and they study human behavior. There are archaeologists, and they study past human behavior, so groups that aren't around anymore, but they left artifacts. And then there are biological anthropologists, and we study humans as, well, biological organisms. But within biological anthropology, there's my field, and we study humans and to identify them, distinguish them from non-humans, or find out who they were compared to a living record of some kind.
Okay. Well, and that's what we want to talk about today, is the forensic anthropologist, your field. Do you remember your first case? I'm sure you do. Can you tell us about it? And what your assignment was?
Yes, at least my first really memorable case, I was in Florida, University of Florida, and I was a grad student there, and I was given the assignment to reconstruct a skull that had come in from Miami. So we had a contract, and they would save skeletal material for us, and then once a quarter we go down and bring things back. And this particular skull came in a little container, almost like a food service container, and it had most of a skull in it. It was flat because the parts you would think are round were shattered, and the face attacked, and I spent a morning letting it dry and then reconstructing it. And when I had it put back together, because it takes about a morning, a whole day for the glue to set. It was an individual male, and he had a contact gunshot wound. So the contact means that you can find bullet wipe in the wound, in the bone in this case, and neat little exit. Since it was contact, that's what happens.
Sure.
And I could describe the path, entrance, exit. And that's what the medical examiner wanted to.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle that you
Very
had.
much so.
Okay.
Yes.
With many pieces?
Yes, because this was a relatively higher caliber, so the higher, like say anything above a little bitty 22 will make a skull flatten. So even though you go, well, there's soft tissue around it holding it together, 9mm, anything higher, there's enough energy to shatter a skull.
Well, to the ordinary person, this kind of thing sounds pretty gruesome. I mean, we see it in movies and things, but when you start talking about real people, how do you deal with that?
Well, and one of the nice things, at least for me, about forensic anthropology is that the scene, the moment of the death or crime is a little more distant. So I deal with skeletal material, and so some time has to have passed or some other process has to have occurred that the person is skeletonized. Because if they're whole, the medical examiner or coroner will deal with them. But if they're reduced to the skeleton, then you need an anthropologist. And by the time I get there, the story has faded just a smidge. And that little smidge is enough. It's enough for me. And I don't go to active crime scenes. I think the brave people are the law enforcement and crime scene techs that have to process a scene that is very fresh.
Well, and when you do get these bones later then, what are the type of things that these bones can tell you?
Well, you can learn things like how old someone was. And of course, this all depends on how much of a skeleton you get. So how old were they? What sex were they? What was their ancestry? And I'm using a term different from, say, what race. So in general language, we might say what race they were, but I'm describing something separate from how we use race in the U.S. And how tall were they? You can extrapolate that to weight. Sometimes we'll look at, if we really have no idea who they are, which hand did they prefer? Were there any wounds that they had that were on the skeleton that would show up in a record, like X-ray or CT scans?
And you brought some bones with you.
Mm-hmm.
This one in particular, I'll hand it to you. It has a hole in it, and that's...
Yes.
Explain what you can read from that.
Yes, this is a very good projectile wound. I mean, not good for the individual, but I mean good in that it shows up clearly. And this person did survive this wound, at least at first, but not long enough to heal. And cranial bone is kind of iffy about healing anyway, but this particular defect is from a mini ball, and the mini balls were used for our purposes during the Civil War, and because this specimen comes from someone who died during the Civil War.
Sure.
And so the large diameter, at this large size of an entrance wound, and this is an entrance, is not typical for our modern projectiles. Sure. So that alone is a tip-off. There's something else going on.
Well, and that's a historical piece that you're holding on to there from the Civil War. Yes. You've worked on more recent things. One of them was the Value Jet crash in '96.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And tell us about that case when you got there.
Yes, that was a case where this plane went down in the Everglades, and our lab were asked to identify all the juveniles on board. So there were 104 passengers, and we ID'd, I want to say 11 juveniles. There was one ID from the FBI, and the difficulty was that because the plane was traveling so fast, that everyone on the plane was reduced to, say, a uniform particle size.
Sure.
I know it sounds bald, but the issue was, how do we ID these people?
Right.
But with kids, there was more of the kids.
Well, how you teach this to people.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly tell us, what's some advice that you have for people who are thinking of doing this for a living?
Make sure you do have a strong stomach and that you have a meticulous nature. You have to like details.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on. There's so much. This is so interesting. I wish we could talk longer, but we can't. Yeah. So thanks for coming on today, Phoebe.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Well, coming up, softball is a popular pastime in the summer. One league adds a little kick to their fun. We'll show you a childhood game that adults are having a hard time letting go. Also, steel surrounds us in places like buildings and vehicles. We'll introduce you to the man that deals with hard metals when they're not needed anymore.
Studio One closed captioning is underwritten in part by Options, your disability information source.
The University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences is meeting the challenge of future healthcare workforce shortages. The state's only medical school produces the highest percentage of graduates nationwide who choose family medicine. Advanced degrees are also offered in basic medical sciences like anatomy and health professions like physical therapy. Students learn and train throughout the state.
In that way, we really are North Dakota.
Make your choice the UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences.
It's not the size of the woman in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the woman.
The play is under review.
Hey, take a look at this.
This online course is awesome.
Yeah, I gotta see that again.
Young love, bullies, and a blood-sucking vampire are all part of a new horror film. Let Me In is the title of the movie remade from the 2008 Swedish blockbuster. Set in the 1980s, two lonely newfound friends, Owen and Abby, find peace in each other's company. Abby is keeping a dark secret. She is a vampire and must feed on human blood. Owen must learn to deal with Abby's curse. Abby's father is played by longtime actor Richard Jenkins. He says he's becoming more and more picky with his movie roles.
The last few years, I start reading movies and can I physically do this? You know, I mean, can I still do? So it was challenging.
One of the most intense scenes was when an infected vampire burst into flames in her own hospital bed. In every shot, the vampire and her nurse would erupt into flames and then be quickly extinguished. Let Me In opens in theaters October 1st. Now it's time to look at the events happening in your area. Many people think old, rusted scrap metal is garbage, but for one company, what may seem like trash to some makes a living for others.
In the Red River Valley, mountains are considered non-existent, except at one place. Piled high are mountains of steel. Tyler Gibbs realized his calling at a young age.
Well, after you figure out you're probably not going to be a pro football player or hockey player, I don't know, when is that, about 10, 12 years old. Just these two that have been in this.
Customers bring both steel and other non-ferrous metals like copper and aluminum to this yard to sell. Here among the mountains of twisted and tangled iron, Tyler is at home.
Our family's always been very hardworking.
Hidden among these alloy alps, cannibalistic machines claw and crush the metal into a manageable size. Longtime crane operator Mark Kopp enjoys the lighter side of his job.
Oh, I guess you get to see a little of everything come in this yard.
Musical instruments, church bells.
We had a load come in and they had a couple of old coffins in them.
Whether it be coffins or church bells, the metal stands no chance against the raw power of these Goliaths. With thousands of pounds of metal moved and what seems like no end in sight, for these scrapyard dogs, it's just another day in what some may call an oversized sandbox.
I never thought I'd be a junkyard dog.
I'm Jason Coyote reporting for Studio One.
Tyler says the iron yard buys an average of 100,000 pounds of steel each day. This is the equivalent of about 4 school buses. Still to come, meteorologists can predict the weather, but now they may be able to pick the weather. Find out how research on weather modification is progressing. That story plus news, sports, and weather in the next half hour of Studio One.
Closed captioning for Studio One is underwritten in part by NDAD, helping others to help themselves.
At the University of North Dakota Department of Music, our degrees are as unique as you are. UND's music education and music therapy programs boast a pass rate far above the national average on state and federal certification exams. Find out how the UND Department of Music can uniquely fit you.
What does cancer look like? What about diabetes, heart disease? Medical laboratory professionals are a vital link in the treatment of disease and maintenance of health. They investigate clues found in the body that will direct patient care. The University of North Dakota's laboratory science programs are some of the most innovative, far-reaching, fully accredited programs in the nation. The UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences can help you become one of the few who see beneath the surface.
Some consider graduation the end of the college experience. For others, it's just the beginning.
And the university provided an environment where I could grow.
And many years after I graduated, I'm still receiving dividends from my experience as a student at UND.
The University of North Dakota Alumni Association is committed to growing the university. by growing the alumni family.
Your future depends on this moment. Take the path that leads to your future.
From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Welcome back to Studio One.
Thanks for joining us today. We have a lot of great stories coming up for you. One of them deals with online dating. You know, it's not the traditional way of maybe going to a public place and meeting with someone and meeting somebody.
I think people get more nervous when they actually have to meet someone and get all ready and
the whole face-to-face thing.
First impressions.
You can stay at home, surf the web, and maybe hook up with somebody.
Yeah.
Well, we went out and asked people's opinions on whether they thought that was a good way to go or to go back to the traditional way of doing things, and their answers are coming up. Also, in the next 30 minutes on Studio One, some people have a hard time deciding what to order off the menu. A new law just might make their decision a little easier.
Also, research says exercising can increase happiness. We'll show you how fun and exercise can mix through Latin American rhythms.
And we live in an era of convenience, ease, and immediate results, but this can come at a high cost. We'll talk to someone who can tell us how this mentality can be addicting. But first, here's today's news with Amy Unruh.
Thanks, Monty and Lindsay. A University of Texas student is dead after an open fire shooting on Tuesday. 19-year-old Colton Tooley fired an AK-47 on the Texas campus. He then killed himself. Tooley disguised himself in a ski mask and fired a number of shots on campus. His body was then found on the 6th floor of the college library. Classes were canceled and the school was on lockdown for hours. No other students or faculty were reported injured. Detectives have searched Tooley's parents' home for clues, but the motive of the incident is still unknown. The shooting brings concern over the current debate of whether or not people should be allowed to carry concealed weapons. Texas lawmakers expect to discuss the issue in the 2011 legislative session. Legendary actor Tony Curtis died Wednesday night. The 85-year-old Hollywood star battled chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and died of cardiac arrest. Curtis started his acting career in the late 1940s. He starred in over 150 major motion pictures. He was nominated for an Oscar in the 1958 film The Defiant Ones. He also appeared in Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe and Jack Lemmon. Aside from his stardom, Curtis enjoyed a second successful career as a painter and writer. A study by the Government Accountability Office says the price of textbooks has tripled since the mid-1990s. Students spend an average of $900 a year on this part of their education, but now they can get a break from these high prices. Students are able to rent their textbooks instead of buy them. Last year, a pilot program for renting was tested on 250 campuses. Due to its success, renting is now available at 1,300 campus bookstores.
I've personally took students around in the store and showed them the savings. Like there was the one book that was over $200 that for rental was only $80, so I had a lot of excited parents.
Students save an average of 50% on their books. They can also write and highlight in the textbooks as if they were their own. The nicknames Four Eyes can be hurtful, but it can also be safer. A new study from the journal Pediatrics says contact lenses are the #1 medical device that injures kids over age 11. The most common injuries seen are cuts and infections. The bacteria that grows on the lenses is responsible for 34,000 emergency room visits by kids and teens every year. Ulcers can also form from pink eye infections and leave scars on the front of the eye. Doctors say these injuries can be prevented by following cleaning and care instructions. Most injuries occur among teens aged 16 to 21. Many people count their calorie intake. Going out to eat can be a challenge, until now.
For many people, choosing a meal off the menu is the toughest decision they might have to make all day. The infamous meal debate can take some time, but a new law might just speed up the process for some.
I would like to know what I'm putting in my body. I think
with the way Americans eat now, maybe it'll help them change their food choice for later.
As part of the healthcare reform, restaurant chains with more than 20 locations are required to show calorie counts for each menu item.
There's a large number of public health officials who are I know they're very concerned about the fact that I think it's like 27% of our country is overweight.
Many restaurants already provide a healthy choice menu displaying calorie options.
We do have like an eating fit style. We have, we do have people for less calories, stuff like that.
But some restaurant managers aren't opposed to the change.
I like it because then people are gonna know what they're actually eating instead of just picking what they like and not knowing what's in it.
Frequent diners like this idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think that a lot of people don't realize what they're eating.
The calorie count makes customers aware of their food choices. This change may also be better for the individual's pocket.
48% of our food dollars are spent on food purchased outside of the home. And so people are eating tremendous amounts of food away from home. And a lot of it is very high fat food that is high in calories and not considered to be healthy.
A study done by the New York University School of Medicine shows that displaying the calorie count may prevent people from eating out as often. They are able to see the actual cost restaurant dining can take on the body. I'm Brenly Lowen reporting for Studio One.
Changes are set to begin taking effect in March of 2011. And that's the news for now. Monty and Lindsay.
Thanks, Amy. Well, I mean, anytime people are more informed, it seems that that's a good thing, right?
Very true.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So we've been seeing a lot of flooding in southern Minnesota, like we heard earlier, but that is not the only place that's been having problems with flooding. So Miranda Hilders at the Weather Studio can tell us more now.
You're right, Lindsay. Actually, we did have all that rain move through southern Minnesota, but that's not the only place that we're having trouble with flooding. We have actually the leftovers from Tropical Storm Nicole, which are making their way up the East Coast this past Wednesday, which are submerging freeways and stranding motorists along the coast of North Carolina. A state of emergency was declared in Wilmington, North Carolina after they received more than 15 inches of rain from the storms. In fact, the Cape Fear area erased their 3-month rain deficit in just one day. South Carolina's coast also received about 6 to 10 inches of rain, but the flooding there is a lot less severe, so they don't have quite as much to worry about. And as you can see right here, we have the remnants of Tropical Storm Nicole, and if we put this into motion, a 24-hour radar loop for you, you can see that it's hitting right here along the coast of South Carolina and then up along the coast of North Carolina, also just getting inundated with all of this moisture, all of this rainfall. It's causing plenty of problems with flooding. And again, we had some flooding in Minnesota, some flooding happening on the East Coast, and it's just a lot of rain and a lot of storms happening. Sometimes we need storms though, and scientists are working with weather modification to see if they can make those happen during droughts. The weather upsets our plans, but what happens when we upset its plans? Weather modification is the study of how people can purposefully alter the weather. It has been used in order to prevent hail from harming crops or to induce rain to help crops grow. Tony Grainger, a professor from the University of North Dakota, recently worked on a weather modification project.
Weather modification is, as usually referred to, is cloud seeding.
Weather modification projects use 2 different planes. One plane has instruments on its wings and flies through the cloud. Another plane is for seeding clouds.
Seeding with one airplane and then coming through with this instrumentation, a cloud physics airplane that goes through and measures all of the important parameters.
There are some public concerns about the substances that are used for seeding.
You're not really trying to do anything that nature isn't doing already, except you're trying to make it more efficient. And you're not really putting anything into the environment that's that harmful.
Some people may not like the idea of creating rainy days, but when it comes to growing crops, it's to everyone's benefit. Reporting for Studio One Weather, I'm Corey Sutherland. And that brings us right back to our weather question for this week, which dealt with weather modification. In fact, we wanted to see when the best time to seed clouds was. That's when there are scattered clouds in the atmosphere. So they go up with the airplanes, they drop some particles in the air, get those clouds growing, and that's what makes it rain. Monty and Lindsay?
All right, thanks, Miranda.
And that's what makes it rain. It's that easy, right?
Who knew?
Who knew? Okay, well, let's turn to sports one more time. David Folsky.
Thanks, Monty and Lindsay.
The first day of the week is notorious for being a damper on the events to come. Some adults have found an outlet to kick away the Monday blues.
Back! Shouts like these would usually be associated with softball in fields 5, 6, and 7. But on Monday nights, they're for a youthful game that brings back the playground memories. This intense game has created a new alternative for some not-so-intense adults who are just looking for a fun time on the fields.
It's like back in middle school when you had no worries and no issues. It seems a lot easier back then, though.
Most players are here to end the first day of the week on a good foot. They see it as a time to bring back their childhood and share it with family and friends. No yelling, stress-free is how they like to play, and with 6 co-ed teams making up the Grand Forks Kickball League, they accomplish just that.
We've had more fun playing kickball than anybody's had playing softball or doing golf or anything like that. I think it's just because it's all about fun.
If a play gets botched, these adults don't get mad. They laugh it off, keep playing, and go about as though it never happened. With family and friends looking on, these players enjoy the cheers, which are more than enough incentive to come back week to week. The celebrations don't end at home plate, however. The players continue their good times enjoying the company of their team after the game.
We usually go on and grab a burger and a beer.
Some teams have even started recruiting their youngsters for future seasons.
This is my nephew, Braden. We're signing him to a scholarship next week.
With growing popularity, this grassy field game will seemingly never die out for kids, and now adults. I'm John Schaefer, reporting for Studio One.
There are 6 teams in this kickball league, and they plan to expand next summer. Now the answer to this week's Studio One sports trivia question: which NHL player was the leading rookie scorer in the 2009-2010 regular season? It is B. Matt Duchene, 55 points with Colorado Avalanche. And that's the sports. Monty and Lindsay.
Thanks, David. Some people may be a little intimidated by the dating scene. There are many who date from home in their sweatpants. We asked people their thoughts on online dating.
Also, we're far away from Latin America, but that doesn't mean we can't exercise the Latin American way. We'll introduce you to a way you can get in shape by shaking those hips.
How do we save energy? How does your water get clean? What can fix the flooding? What is biomass? What is carbon? Where does energy come from? How does pollution hurt the earth?
Join over 350 EERC team members to find the answers.
At the University of North Dakota Department of Music, our degrees are as unique as you are. UND's music education and music therapy programs boast a pass rate far above the national average on state and federal certification exams. Find out how the UND Department of Music can uniquely fit you.
Studio One is a television show produced by staff and students at the University of North Dakota. Here you actually get to do your own stories and you get to go out and talk to people and interview and learn about the cameras and everything that goes into like a live television production. I mean, it's incredible.
Give it a try. I mean, even if you're not broadcasting communications major, anything, I mean, it's worth it.
At the University of North Dakota School of Engineering and Mines, I can experience education that fits my goals.
Become a competitive graduate in a global market and learn in small class sizes where professors are also mentors.
Work in a diverse team and inspire young minds.
Help develop world-class research.
Gain state-of-the-art technical knowledge while building strong business and leadership skills.
And stay connected even after I graduate.
You're watching Studio One from the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks.
Fitness buffs are talking about a new high-energy Latin dance workout. The premise is to have so much fun that you forget you're getting exercise.
Push-ups, sit-ups, and running are just a few of the gym goers' everyday activities. Fitness instructor Katya Berleva has found a different way to keep her class active.
Latin dancing and fitness together, Zumba was a natural choice, I guess.
This high-energy aerobics class welcomes anyone willing to move to a beat.
Well, my friend at home has always taught me about, or showed me moves from Zumba. She's like, it's so fun, so I've always wanted to try it.
Oh, Zumba is absolutely for everyone, and it doesn't matter whether you have experience or not, there is always something new for you.
The exploding music that echoes through the studio creates an upbeat atmosphere. Zumba dancers say that the exercises are entertaining and easy to learn.
It's a great workout and it's really fun because usually I don't dance, and this is a chance for me to get out there and show my moves.
In traditional workouts, certain areas of the body may be ignored. Zumba is a cardio workout that targets the whole body.
As the class goes on, they kind of letting it go and start enjoying themselves and trying out all those new moves, and they live with a smile on their faces.
Zumba may be the workout that doesn't seem like a workout. For some, dancing, having fun, and sometimes looking silly may be the perfect way to stay in shape. With photographer Dylan Reichstead, I'm Ashley Tredan reporting for Studio One.
Katja has been a dancer since she was a young girl. She's competed in Latin and ballroom dancing. Flowers, a nice restaurant, and flirting looks. This may be something most people relate to dating. However, more and more people are now replacing these traditions with computer screens and mouse clicks. We wanted your thoughts on online dating.
I think it's more socially acceptable for people over the age of 35.
I guess it could be a little bit better than going out to bars and just, drinking a lot and finding people. So it seems like people just hook up more doing that kind of stuff. So I guess online dating could be something more serious.
We didn't have that in my day, and I think I'd be pretty leery of who might show up at the door.
For some people it works well, and I think for others they like the real intimate personal side of just doing regular dating instead of doing the online part of it.
Well, I like the traditional dating, find each other at a coffee shop.
Normal dating, you have to go meet the people you see every day, but online dating you meet new people from around the world.
I think a lot of people have met their soulmates online.
Although I have a cousin's daughter that married a guy from online, and so far there seems to be going okay, but I think you have to be very, very cautious.
Some of our Facebook fans had their own opinions. A comment from Chicago. Allie says, I think online dating is a good way to meet people for those who don't have the option to get out much as they'd like, or for those people who live in a big city and want to meet someone. Also, Stephen from Spangdahlem Air Force Base in Germany says, I like the idea of internet dating. It can help people open up so there's less surprise when the face-to-face meeting takes place. They have gone by the names hillbilly heroin and happy pills, but these drugs are no joke. In fact, they're becoming the most widely abused drugs in the United States. We'll tell you more next.
Closed captioning for Studio One is underwritten in part by the Listen Center, where meeting friends at Listen is a groovy thing to do and has been since the days of Woodstock.
Accounting at the University of North Dakota is more than just numbers. It's about maintaining a history of high-quality education and developing leaders in the accounting profession. While numbers stay the same, the UND accounting program continues to evolve. UND hosts one of the country's best accounting programs and now offers a master's degree in accountancy. Accounting at the University of North Dakota. Numbers accelerated.
others live to their full potential, improve clients' mental and physical well-being, excel in one of the top healthcare careers of the future. Occupational therapy students at the University of North Dakota experience high-quality education in small classes.
Has to come to 45 degrees, even in a normal motion pattern.
Your healthcare career begins at the University of North Dakota.
Some consider graduation the end of the college experience. For others, it's just the beginning.
And the university provided an environment where I could grow.
Many years after I graduated, I'm still receiving dividends from my experience as a student at UND.
The University of North Dakota Alumni Association is committed to growing the university by growing the alumni family.
The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration says nearly 7 million Americans abuse prescription drugs. This is more than the number of cocaine, heroin, and ecstasy abusers combined. Drugs and Society Professor Frank White is here to tell us about the dangers of prescription drugs. All right, thank you so much for being here, Frank.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so the number one question on my mind is, what is causing this new addiction to prescription pills? Why are we seeing such a rise in that problem?
Well, anytime you have an epidemic or you have a rise in any type of drug use, the first thing you can probably look at is availability. There are just more prescription drugs available. Dr. Nora Volken, who's the head of the National Institute on Drug Abuse, has said that there's basically three trends. One is that physicians are prescribing more prescription than ever before. Number two is that you have the internet, and there are thousands of different internet sites, both foreign and domestic, and you don't even have to talk to a physician sometimes, and you don't need a prescription. And then the third thing that we see quite a lot of is what we call diversion, where a lot of the drugs are intended for a particular person or a client, and they get diverted to someone through theft, forgery, or something of that nature.
Okay, so which drugs are the biggest problems? Which specific types?
No question when it comes to prescription drugs, it's the opiates. They're the painkillers, and you probably heard the most widely publicized one is Oxycontin. Hydrocodone is very popular. Vicodin is another one that's in the news quite a bit. Those would be your number ones, number two and number three. And also the stimulant prescription drugs. We're seeing a lot of big increase in Adderall, Ritalin, where younger populations are using that and talking about the same kind of a high they're getting from cocaine or methamphetamine.
So who's most at risk for prescription pill abuse?
Well, we say in our field that anybody with a brain can become addicted. It's the one thing that's very non-discriminatory, so anybody. But as a sociologist, we see certain trends. And probably the biggest trends we've noticed is that age 34 to 65, and we call those naive addicts or naive users. These are people with legitimate pain that go to their physician, and they're probably given a 30-day prescription of Vicodin. And that pain that they're suffering is totally removed, and they get 30 days of pleasure. And a lot of people refer to that as a starter set. And when you get 30 days of that, it can lead to an addiction quite easily. And on top of all that, too, we have a term for that, and we call it addiction by prescription. So in the most legitimate sources. A second demographic we're seeing an increase in are the young populations, the younger people. And again, because of availability, oftentimes they're unaware. They, like many people, look at them as legal drugs, that they're safe for some reason because the doctor prescribed them. And one of the disturbing trends we've seen in the last 10 years are high school and college students going to parties, and they call farm parties. PHARM, farm, for pharmacological parties, or they're called trail mix, where people just bring their prescription drugs they've collected, or Smurf, they call them, gathering, and they throw them into a bowl, and they look at the effects. They take one out and they try it and look what kind of effect they're having, or the combination of a couple of different ones and that kind of effect. And that's a very, very dangerous technique and use of prescription drugs. So dangerous.
So how are these people that don't have the prescription from the doctor getting these pills?
Well, again, that would fall back into that idea I talked earlier about diversion. And that's called, diversion is a transfer of prescription drugs from a lawful to an unlawful channel of distribution. So if you go to a doctor and you get 30 pills, someone might steal them, someone might sell them. One of the people I was talking to said that he went to his grandmother's who had prescription painkillers, and she had 50, so he just took 10 off the top. She wouldn't even miss that. Forgeries, alteration of prescriptions. If you go on the internet, there are so many different ways that you can beat that system in legitimate ways. So again, the availability, and I think the ingenuity, the creativity that people are using.
So do they lead to harder drugs, like a gateway type of drug?
Very popular theory is that because people are starting to use them early and earlier, we see that 7 out of the 10 drugs abused by high school students are prescription drugs.
Wow.
Yep, both painkillers and stimulants. And a lot of people think it might be a gateway drug, but we're finding something very interesting here. Number one is that it's usually not a gateway drug to alcohol, nicotine, or marijuana because they're probably already using those drugs. But what we're noticing is that it does seem to be correlated with use in heroin, which is a much harder drug because like getting an oxy pill, oxycodone, $40. Heroin actually is becoming street heroin. It might become, I don't know, more available, but it might be cheaper. And we're seeing it as a gateway drug to a harder one. And heroin, I thought, was an interesting trend.
So what can be done to fix this problem of prescription pill abuse?
Well, anytime you have an epidemic, you know, it takes a while to develop, and it's not a black and white issue. It's a very complex drug problem. So we like to combat that with education efforts, consciousness raising, just increasing people's knowledge skills to show that it is a dangerous thing, and combinations are very, very dangerous. And also the other part is that it's not just important to be more knowledgeable when it comes to drugs, but have a collaborative effort. You have to coordinate this effort with the government, with your teachers, religious leaders, and certainly parents. 47% of all the people abusing prescription drugs in America get them from their parents or their friends. So I think you have to have a collaborative effort and raising knowledge levels.
Wow, so I think it's a problem that so many people aren't aware of, and thank you so much for coming in and kind of filling us in on this new epidemic.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. You're watching Studio One from the University of North Dakota. We'll be right back after this.
What does cancer look like? What about diabetes, heart disease? Medical laboratory professionals are a vital link in the treatment of disease and maintenance of health. They investigate clues found in the body that will direct patient care. The University of North Dakota's laboratory science programs are some of the most innovative, far-reaching, fully accredited programs in the nation. The UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences can help you become one of the few who see beneath the surface.
Studio One is a television show produced by staff and students at the University of North Dakota. Here you actually get to do your own stories, and you get to go out and talk to people and interview and learn about the cameras and everything that goes into like a live television production. I mean, it's incredible.
Give it a try. I mean, even if you're not broadcasting communications major, anything, I mean, it's worth it.
Help others live to their full potential. Improve clients' mental and physical well-being. Excel in one of the top healthcare careers of the future. Occupational therapy students at the University of North Dakota experience high-quality education in small classes.
Not to come to 45 degrees, even in a normal motion pattern.
Your healthcare career begins at the University of North Dakota.
Save energy. How does your water get clean? What can fix the flooding? What is biomass? What is carbon? Where does energy come from? How does pollution hurt the earth?
Join over 350 EERC team members to find the answers.
Tune in next week on Studio One. We'll show you a unique type of movie theater where the sky actually is the limit. Plus, we'll have other news and entertainment stories for you.
Have you noticed a crunching sound as you're walking around outside?
Why, I have.
That's because it's fall time. We're going to leave you now with pictures of the changing season. From all of us here at Studio One, have a great week.